As we age, sleep gets more difficult. But what if your sleep problems are more than just age-related and you have actual clinical insomnia? After all, while only 10% of the general adult population experiences chronic insomnia, it affects up to 50% of seniors. Since seniors do tend to experience higher rates of insomnia than younger adults, I thought it would be a good idea to do a deep dive into clinical insomnia in the senior population. Specifically, how to recognize it, what causes it, and most importantly, what you can do about it. I want to start this video by talking about what clinical insomnia is, because many people are wondering whether their sleep troubles are just occasional bad nights or something more serious like clinical insomnia. So let's talk about how to tell the difference. If you're experiencing sleep difficulties 3 or more nights per week, and that pattern has persisted for 3 months or more, despite having proper sleep setting and enough time in bed, and you've noticed it's impacting your daytime energy or mood, this strongly suggests that you've got clinical insomnia. If instead your sleep disturbances are sporadic, maybe linked to a stressful event like traveling or a noisy environment, and they resolve when circumstances change, then it's most likely just temporary poor sleep. As we get older, sleep naturally changes, and we often spend less time in deep sleep, wake up more during the night, and find our sleep feels lighter overall. That's just normal aging, and not necessarily insomnia, unless there's a persistent trouble that leads to poor daytime functioning. So what I want you to do is ask yourself, how many nights per week do I struggle falling asleep or staying asleep? Has it been that way for several months? And do I feel consistently tired, unfocused, or unrefreshed, even on days when I've slept? If your answer to these questions is yes more often than no, what you're experiencing is probably clinical insomnia rather than occasional poor sleep. So what causes clinical insomnia and why is it more prevalent in seniors? Well, one common thing we see in people with insomnia of all ages is that they have an elevated level of physiological arousal. We call this hyperarousal. While this may not be specific to just seniors, it seems as though it is present in most people with insomnia and is a good idea to address. Hyperarousal refers to an increased level of physiological, cognitive, or emotional, what we call activation, that persists throughout the day and night, even when a person's trying to sleep. So, what do I mean by that? I mean your biology is actually moving a lot faster than other people's biology. Your metabolic rate usually turns out to be increased, which means your whole system is moving faster. In people with insomnia, this state does not shut off at bedtime, making it incredibly difficult to fall or stay asleep. This hyperarousal often leads to restlessness, physical tension, and a reduced sleep efficiency. What is sleep efficiency? That's how much time you spend in bed actually asleep. That gets lowered. And hyperarousal, believe it or not, has a number of different causes. For example, it can be genetic. It can be caused by acute external stressors, or it can be a learned response, meaning over time, for people with insomnia, bedtime just becomes associated with wakefulness and frustration rather than relaxation. Now remember, multi-component treatment plans are proven to have the highest success rate at treating insomnia and are more effective than medication alone long-term. So as we go through these 6 treatment options, I want you to seriously consider doing as many of these as you can, since it will give you a far greater likelihood of solving your insomnia problem, especially the last thing that I'm going to tell you, which is one of the most proven methods for treating clinical insomnia. But real quick, if you are truly interested in getting better sleep, please do me a favor, subscribe to my channel below. I've got a bunch of great content coming out soon that you will not want to miss. And if you're finding this video helpful, do me a favor, give it a like or send it to a friend. Your support helps allow me to create more content just like this video. So please do both of those right now. Okay, the first treatment option I want to talk about is to make sure you are practicing good sleep hygiene. Good sleep hygiene alone can sometimes cure insomnia, especially in mild cases, but even if good sleep hygiene doesn't cure insomnia, without practicing good sleep hygiene, the chance of any of these other techniques working is extremely low. So it really is the right starting point and should be considered the bare minimum for treating insomnia. Now, there are a lot of ways that you can practice good sleep hygiene, but if you're a senior dealing with insomnia, I want you to focus on the following. Number 1, be consistent with your sleep schedule. Remember, your body performs best with a regular sleep-wake cycle. So make sure you're going to bed close to and waking up almost exactly at the same time every single day. Number 2, avoid stimulants and stimulating behaviors in the early evening or night. This can not only include things like caffeine, nicotine, and other stimulants, but also eliminate stimulating activities before sleep like stressful work or emotional conversations. Those can definitely keep you up. Number 3, establish a relaxing pre-sleep routine to reduce anxiety and transition your brain into sleep mode. After you've established your routine, try to follow it every single night. Remember, consistency matters. If nothing else, consistency matters more in sleep than almost any other place that you're looking. Number 4, optimize your bedroom so it's quiet, dark, and cool. Whatever you need to get your environment right for sleep. Number 5, and this is a big one with seniors, nap carefully. Let's be fair, naps reduce sleep drive, which is a major contributor to nighttime sleep onset or your ability to fall asleep at night. Even short naps, like 5 to 10 minutes, can significantly undermine nighttime sleep for those people with insomnia. So try to minimize naps if you can, keeping them short, ideally under 20 minutes. Structured, meaning if you're going to take a nap, you set an alarm first so you don't oversleep. And keep them in the early part of the day, meaning no later than 2 p.m. Okay, step number 6, stop eating 3 hours before bed. For dinner, I recommend a balanced Mediterranean diet. This will not only help your sleep, but is a nice source of omega-3s. Do yourself a favor and have a sleep-friendly diet. It will serve you well. Number 7, both caffeine and alcohol can disrupt normal sleep architecture and should be minimized or eliminated during this treatment period of time, especially alcohol, as it reduces REM sleep and increases your nighttime awakenings. Number 8, make sure to get exercise every day. But remember, I don't mean intense workouts, but more like going for a 15-minute walk after dinner. Consistency is incredibly important here, so make sure that you do this every day. People who exercise daily sleep better, especially seniors. Number 9, if you're having trouble sleeping, avoid watching the clock. Checking the time increases performance anxiety, especially if you cannot fall asleep or if you wake during the night. And finally, number 10, do not go to bed too early. Since seniors are usually retired and their children have moved out of the house, their day can lack a little bit of structure. Because of that, they have a tendency to go to bed early. Instead, you should make sure to go to bed according to your chronotype. Remember, if you don't know what that is, go take my quiz at sleepdoctor.com. I'll leave a link below in the description. Again, consider these 10 sleep hygiene habits as the minimum baseline you want to be shooting for in order to be the best prepared for sleep. Who knows, just doing these things might dramatically improve your sleep. The next treatment option I want to talk about is called stimulus control. Over time, people with insomnia start associating their bed with frustration, not sleep. What we need to do is retrain your brain. And here's how we're going to do it. First, only go to bed when you're actually sleepy. If you're not sleepy by your chronotypical bedtime, then consider moving your bedtime 30 minutes later and see if that helps. Next, if you cannot fall asleep in 30 minutes, get out of bed and do something calming, like reading or something like that for a while before attempting to go back to sleep again. You should have a place in your home set up specifically for this activity. Make sure there's a dim light there as well. Also, use the bed strictly for sleep and intimacy. If possible, no phones, no laptops. Reading is okay to do in bed, but only before sleep. Do me a favor, don't sit in your bed during the day and read. Finally, if you have a rough night and hardly got any sleep, still get up at the exact same time as you would any other day. Stimulus control can be a really effective tool at minimizing what's called conditional arousal, which in turn can help specifically with sleep onset insomnia or the inability to fall asleep at night. Next, let's talk about my favorite, sleep restriction therapy, which can help with both difficulty falling asleep and frequent nighttime awakenings. Sleep restriction therapy works by, I know this is going to sound crazy, limiting your time in bed to match how much you're truly sleeping. Let's say you're only sleeping for 6 hours a night. Instead of spending 8 hours in bed tossing and turning, you restrict yourself to just the 6 hours, and this builds something that we call sleep pressure. As your sleep becomes more consolidated, you slowly increase your time in bed. The best way to do this is to use a sleep diary for several weeks to determine on average how much sleep you're getting each night. Then you set your bedtime and wake time accordingly. For example, if your diary shows you're only sleeping 6 hours a night, you get in bed around 10 but don't fall asleep until midnight and then sleep until 6 a.m., then you would probably start restriction by going to bed at midnight because you're basically not sleeping anyway and still getting up at 6 a.m. Again, as your sleep becomes more consolidated, meaning once you're able to fall asleep and sleep without any arousals or awakening within your 6-hour period, you can then gradually add to this total sleep time by 15 minutes each week to get back to the true amount of sleep that you need to be getting. Now, one caveat with sleep restriction therapy: no naps are allowed. We want to build this natural sleep deprivation to increase your sleep drive. You can get back to napping after we've consolidated your sleep. 2 other important rules. 1, your wake-up time must be 100% consistent 7 days a week. Number 2, your bedtime may shift a little later or earlier based on improvements, but you should not be adjusting it arbitrarily. I would also like to caution that sleep restriction can be mentally and physically challenging at first. It's best done with supervision from a sleep psychologist or a clinician, as I personally do not think it's appropriate to attempt solo without proper guidance. To be clear, you can really mess yourself up, so you really want to work with somebody who's going to be helpful. Next, let's talk about relaxation techniques and meditation as a treatment option for reducing both mental and physical arousal. The goal here is to break the cycle of hyperarousal by calming both the mind as well as the body. What we want to do is create what I call runway to land the plane. That is a gradual, gentle descent into sleep. I know sometimes these can seem silly, like they're just a placebo that does not actually do anything, but there really is a large body of research showing that relaxation techniques can go a long way with helping insomnia. All right, my favorite relaxation technique for insomnia is something called progressive muscle relaxation. This is where you tense and relax your muscles, starting at your toes and going all the way up to the top of your head. Personally, I've never made it all the way through because I fall asleep when I'm doing it, but it is a great relaxation tool that I personally use quite a bit. There's also something called diaphragmatic breathing, which is where you're taking big, deep belly breaths in. This can be very, very helpful, but the best part is that it forces you to focus on your breathing and not the monkey mind that's going on inside your head. With a lot of people, when I have them breathing, I have them counting because it's very difficult to count and think of something else at the same time. For example, my favorite 4-7-8 breathing is a great technique that I teach a lot of patients because it helps slow their heart rate below 60, but it also keeps their mind focused while they do it. All you do is simply breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 7, and then release for a count of 8. It seems to work best, however, if you visualize the numbers going backwards. So for example, when you're breathing in for a count of 4, in your head, you should see a number 4, then a number 3, then a number 2, then a number 1. This visualization helps distract you from all of your other worries. There are also a lot of great other meditations and guided imagery that you can do here. Honestly, there's no wrong way to approach this treatment option. You have a lot of flexibility to try different relaxation techniques to figure out what works best for you. The next one is specifically aimed at seniors dealing with pain. Chronic pain can be a huge source of insomnia in older people. Unfortunately, I cannot make the pain go away, but there are some ways I can help minimize its impact on your sleep. First, try making improvements to your sleep system, that is your pillow, your mattress, and your bedding. Specific products have been developed to help deal with specific types of pain. For example, there are pillows designed specifically to help with neck pain and mattresses designed for both hip and back pain. If you go to my website, sleepdoctor.com, I have tons of product reviews that specifically talk about minimizing pain. Next, do not use alcohol for pain relief. Alcohol is terrible for your sleep and will only make pain feel worse throughout the night. By the way, if you do take pain medication, do me a favor and try to take it closer to bedtime and not at mealtime. Please talk with your doctor first, but oftentimes what I see is that seniors will take their pain meds too early and then they wear off in the middle of the night. Plus, a small tip, when you take your pain meds, Just take a sip or two of water. Don't drink a whole glass because you don't want to have to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Another thing you can try is a hot bath about 90 minutes before bed. It sounds simple, but hot baths can be both sleep-inducing and great at minimizing pain. Seriously, there's some great data to back this one up. All right, now we're on to the big one, and it's cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or what's called CBT-I. This is the gold standard treatment for insomnia, and it works especially well for older adults. CBT-I is a structured, evidence-based treatment specifically designed to address the root causes of insomnia. Remember, CBT-I operates on the principle that insomnia is maintained by unhelpful thoughts and beliefs and behaviors about your sleep. For example, as you're lying in bed unable to sleep, you might think to yourself, oh boy, if I don't fall asleep right now, tomorrow is ruined. Or I need 8 hours, or I can't even function. Or maybe you're saying, is there something wrong with me because I can't sleep? These thoughts create anxiety and frustration, leading to further arousal and elevated heart rate and making it even harder to sleep. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia works by breaking this cycle and teaching you how to rewire your thoughts around sleep. Now remember, CBT-I can be especially helpful for seniors because it can be really easy for us to think, oh, well, I'm older now, which means I'm just never going to get good sleep again, which is not very helpful, is it? Cognitive restructuring really helps identify and challenge distorted beliefs that you have about sleep. The goal is really to replace what we call catastrophic thinking, such as, I'm never going to sleep again, with more realistic expectations, such as, even a bad night does not ruin my entire day. This helps reduce sleep performance anxiety and helps you understand that you do not need perfect sleep to function well every day. Here's an example to show you of what I mean. Let's say you think to yourself, well, I did not sleep well, so I'm not going to be able to do anything worthwhile tomorrow. CBT-I might help you reframe this as, I functioned on less sleep before, I may feel tired, but I can get through today, I know it. Another example would be, I have to try harder to fall asleep. Instead, you could reframe this as, sleep is a natural process. The more I try to force it, the harder it becomes. My job is to relax, not to control sleep. Rigid expectations around sleep can lead to frustration and self-judgment. Adjusting these expectations introduces flexibility and trust in your body's natural rhythms, which just helps reduce your natural sleep anxiety. Each of these examples targets inaccurate or what we call rigid beliefs that fuel insomnia. But through cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, you will learn to spot these thoughts, challenge them with logic or evidence, and replace them with calmer, more balanced alternatives, which leads to better sleep over time. Now, I'll be fair, CBT-I is best done with a therapist in person or online. So I encourage you to find someone to provide that role for you. While you're finding a therapist, I also think that once you understand the concept, you can start putting some of the principles of CBT-I into practice tonight to see if they help your sleep. Again, the best way to cure your insomnia is with a multi-component treatment plan. So I encourage you to try each of these treatment options out and see what works for you. Then try to stick to as many of them as you can. Really, the beauty of these treatment options is that they empower you to control your sleep while offering long-lasting results without reliance on a medication. And they can be combined or tailored to fit your personal needs. I would like to add, as one last note, do not discount the role that your doctor can play in helping you deal with insomnia. There is a serious role they can play in addressing some of the medical issues behind your sleep. And if needed, I would not discourage you from trying some prescription sleep medications if they can help get your sleep back on track, or if they can help break the cycle of insomnia while you try some of these other techniques. Now, I know it can be frustrating getting your doctor to help you deal with your sleep issues. So I've made an entire video about how to best utilize your doctor as a resource for fixing your sleep that you can check out right here. Remember, good sleep is learnable. You can definitely do this. This is Dr. Michael Bruce, the Sleep Doctor, wishing you sweet dreams.